Welcome back to MHS Midnight Horror Stories. I know that many of you come to these videos as a gentle way to unwind before drifting off to sleep. So, before you close your eyes tonight, could I ask you for one small favor? Just leave me a quick interaction, a comment, a like, or maybe share where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Little actions like that help YouTube recognize the content and spread it to more people who might enjoy it. My current goal is to reach around 300 likes within the first 24 hours. Now then, let's step into tonight's chilling stories together. To this day, every time I hear the familiar rumble of a lawnmower, my heart starts pounding like I'm 14 again. I'll probably never forget the words Dave said. My name is Hannah, and this happened 9 years ago. My family lived in a small, one-story white house in Findlay, Ohio. My mom worked at the local pharmacy on Main Street. She was a kind lady who everyone in town knew. My dad was an electrician. He was pretty busy, but he always made time for his music. Dave first showed up at the pharmacy where my mom worked. He was there to pick up his medicine. He was a guy in his 70s with a big belly and a shiny bald head. He only had a few gray whiskers on his chin. Dave came into the pharmacy every week for his heart and blood pressure pills. What bothered me was the way he always looked at my mom. His eyes were always on her as she worked. Dave would try to make their conversations last longer. He'd ask about the weather, her family, and anything else he could think of just to talk to her for a few extra minutes. My mom was always polite, but I could see the annoyance in her eyes every time Dave showed up. After becoming a regular customer, Dave started asking my mom out for coffee. My mom would politely refuse. She'd hold up her left hand to show him her wedding ring. But Dave didn't give up. He kept asking her out, to dinner, to the movies, and even for a walk in the park. Each time she said no, his face would get a little darker, but he'd still give a forced smile. About 2 months later, Dave started showing up at our house. The first time, he drove his lawnmower right onto our front lawn. He said he wanted to help us cut our grass for free. My dad politely said no and told him we could do it ourselves. But Dave kept coming back, once a week, then twice, then 3 times. Dave also found out that my dad played guitar in a local country band. He begged to join the band, saying he could play the harmonica. My dad gently turned him down, explaining that they didn't need another instrument player. But Dave kept asking, and he even brought his harmonica to our house to prove he was good. I started to feel uneasy. Whenever Dave showed up, the mood in our house became tense. My parents tried to stay calm, but I could see the worry in their eyes. They started locking the doors, even when we were home, and my mom always made sure I wasn't home alone for too long. One day, my mom was working an afternoon shift at the pharmacy. My dad was at band practice outside of town. I was home alone, sitting in the living room playing Super Mario Bros. On my Nintendo. The music from the game filled the quiet house. Around 3 in the afternoon, I heard the familiar sound of a lawnmower outside. I turned the TV volume down and went to the living room window to look outside. Dave's lawnmower was parked right in front of our house. Dave turned off the mower and got off. I could see him holding something in his hand. From that distance, I couldn't tell what it was, but it was long and had a metallic gleam from the sun. I ran to my bedroom and closed the door right away. I heard him try to turn the doorknob of the front door. It was locked, but Dave didn't give up. He knocked on the door and shouted, "Is anyone home?" "I see the TV is on." I didn't answer, hoping he would think someone just forgot to turn off the TV and leave. But Dave kept knocking, and the sound got louder and louder. I opened my closet and climbed inside. I pulled the closet door shut. I took out my phone and texted my dad. "Dad, come home! Dave is here and I'm really scared." The knocking stopped, and for a few minutes I didn't hear anything. I started to hope that Dave had left. But then another sound made my blood run cold. It was the sound of the kitchen window being pushed open. The sound from that window was very specific because of its rusty hinge. The kitchen window was always left slightly open to let some air in, and we never thought anyone would climb through it. I heard Dave groan as he tried to squeeze through the window frame. then a loud thud as he fell onto the floor. I sat in the closet and tried to breathe as quietly as I could. Through the crack in the closet door, I could hear Dave walking around in the living room. He moved slowly, and I heard a dull thud as something fell onto the wooden floor. Then I heard a dragging sound, like Dave was pulling something heavy across the floor. The sound got closer and closer, heading toward my room. I gripped my phone tightly, my hands shaking as I typed another text to my dad. "I'm hiding in the closet. He's in the house." The footsteps stopped right in front of my bedroom door. Dave was standing there, breathing heavily. After a few seconds that felt like a lifetime, his footsteps started to move away and went back to the living room. He climbed back out the window, and I heard the lawnmower engine start up. I still didn't dare to get out of the closet. 10 minutes later, I heard a car screech into our driveway. The car door slammed, and I heard my dad running into the house. "Hannah, where are you?" I got out of the closet with shaky legs and ran to him. He hugged me tightly, then looked around. There were muddy shoe prints on the wooden floor. My dad led me to the backyard to check if Dave was really gone, but he was still there. He was standing under a large oak tree in the corner of the yard, piling up small sticks at its base. In his hand was a huge fire axe with a sharp blade. My dad called out to Dave, trying to keep his voice calm. "Did you just go into my house?" Dave turned to look at us. His face was completely blank, as if he didn't recognize my dad. Then he said in a strange, flat voice, "Rat in the closet, going to burn the fire." He repeated the phrase 3 times. His eyes were on me when he said the word rat, and I knew he knew I had been hiding in the closet. My dad pulled me back into the house, locked the door, and called the police. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes and found Dave still standing at the tree with the axe. He didn't fight back when they approached him. When they asked him about going into our house, Dave just looked at them with a blank stare and repeated, "Rat in the closet, going to burn the fire." The police took Dave in for questioning, but they found out he had early-stage dementia. The doctor explained that at his age, his brain had declined significantly. They believed he didn't understand that his actions were wrong and that he thought it was normal to go into someone else's house. Dave couldn't explain why he wanted to burn a fire or why he called me a rat. He was moved to a nursing home in Toledo where they could care for people with dementia. I never saw Dave again, but his words still haunt me. Sometimes, in my worst nightmares, I can still hear the sound of his lawnmower getting closer. That chill I felt running down my spine when I heard the news on the local radio is a feeling I'll never forget. 18 years have passed since that summer, but every time I think about it, I still shiver, remembering how close we came to disaster. I was almost 11, and my older sister, Laura, was 14. We grew up in Springfield, Illinois. The White Oaks Mall was the only place we cared about. On weekends, our parents would give us some spending money and let us take the bus downtown to see a movie or just wander around GameStop. As a huge video game fan, my goal was always to save up every penny to buy discounted games. On the bus ride home, I'd get lost in my own world, reading the instruction manuals and telling Laura fun facts from my Game Informer magazines. She'd just smile and nod until we got home. Then she could escape, so I could play video games in my room all weekend. A few months before that fateful trip, our grandma had moved from her old house in Atlanta, Georgia, into a new one closer to us. The neighborhoods were separated by Illinois Route 29. The bus stop was near a bridge that crossed the Sangamon River. We would usually get off the bus there, walk across the bridge, and follow the road lined with thick oak trees all the way home. My grandma's house was the closest one to the bus stop. At the time, our family was in a big conflict, and my parents weren't talking to my grandma. We hadn't been able to visit her in a long time, and my dad had almost forbidden us to go. That day, as Laura and I got off the bus, my mind was buzzing with the 3 PlayStation 2 games I'd just bought. I had a faint feeling that she seemed stressed, but I just figured she was in a hurry to get home to chat with her friends on AOL Instant Messenger. Suddenly, Instead of taking the familiar route home, Laura turned us left toward my grandma's house. I was shocked, and being an impatient kid, I started asking over and over why we were going that way, since I was so anxious to get home and play my games. Laura made me even angrier by giving vague answers like, "It's a nice day for a walk," or "I just want to visit Grandma." Thinking about it now gives me chills, but back then, I just told her that Dad had forbidden it and that I was going to go home by myself. Of course, being the responsible older sister, Laura wouldn't let me go alone. She said our parents would be mad if I went home by myself and that it was her job to watch me. As we continued toward Grandma's house, I started to feel uneasy for the first time. I noticed Laura kept looking back and urging me to walk faster. I thought this was really strange. Laura also kept saying loudly, "Everyone's waiting for us at Grandma's," even though no one was. My steps began to feel heavier as I noticed how strange my sister's voice sounded. Laura never spoke that loudly, and the way she kept turning her head to look back made me feel like someone was following us. My heart started beating faster, but I still had no idea what was going on. We finally made it. Grandma was so surprised to see us show up at her door. We went inside and ate the chocolate chip cookies she'd just made. I had a great time playing with Buddy and forgot all about my games. Laura sat and talked with Grandma while we waited for our parents to pick us up. About a month later, I had almost forgotten about that weird day when shocking news spread through Springfield. It was the first and only child abduction our city had ever experienced. Everyone was talking about it, and I remember my parents and other parents joining search parties, scouring the woods in Lincoln Park. Tragically, 12-year-old Jeremy was found dead in the woods just 3 days after his family reported him missing. The whole city was in shock. The main suspect in the case, a man named Harold Green, killed himself with a gun in his garage before police could question him. Jeremy had apparently been kidnapped while walking across a bridge on his way to school. This bridge was about 4 bus stops toward downtown from the stop where we usually got off. I was an innocent kid and didn't connect the events until many years later, when Laura confessed the truth to me. She decided to take the long way to Grandma's house after she got a bad feeling about a strange man who was sitting behind us on the bus. He had followed us off the bus and silently trailed us until we walked into my grandma's house. Laura clearly remembers that he stood there, watching the house for a moment before turning around and walking away in the opposite direction. Laura said that as soon as we got on the bus at the mall, she had noticed the man's eyes. He was a big guy wearing a baseball cap and kept looking at us. At first, Laura thought it might just be a coincidence, but when he got off at the same stop and walked in the same direction, her gut instinct kicked in. I am certain that Laura's sharp instincts and quick thinking are the reasons I'm alive to tell this story. It was also a stroke of luck that Grandma had moved into the house so close to the bus stop. Every time I drive over that bridge on the Sangamon River, I still think about Jeremy and wonder if his life would have been different if he had an older sister like Laura with him on that fateful day. I'm Logan, 37 years old. I'm driving to visit my daughter for our regularly scheduled visit once a month. She lives with her mother. My ex-wife and I have been divorced for 2 years. The highway, Interstate 95, heading north through New Hampshire, is deserted at night. I check my watch, 11:42 p.m. I expect to arrive around 6 a.m. Ahead of my car is a black sedan. As I get closer, my headlights illuminate the rear of the black sedan, and I notice one of the taillights is missing. A dangling white strip visible. Looks like paint. Maybe the driver doesn't know their car has a problem. I accelerate, pulling up alongside the sedan. I lower my window, waving to get the driver's attention. It's a middle-aged man with a gaunt face. He turns to look at me with cold eyes. "Your taillight's out," I yell, hoping he can hear me over the wind and engine noise. Instead of a nod of thanks, he stares at me with a panicked expression, then abruptly swerves, cutting right in front of my car. I slam on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. The sedan speeds off, quickly disappearing around a bend. That wasn't a normal reaction. Something was wrong. For a moment, I recall the look in that man's eyes, fear mixed with a brutal, crazed edge, the missing taillight, the streak of paint oozing from inside. I decide to follow the sedan, maintaining a safe distance so as not to be detected. My mind races through dozens of different scenarios. Maybe he's just some petty thief transporting illegal goods, or worse, drugs or weapons, or is someone locked in the trunk? Suddenly, as the sedan goes around a curve in my headlights, I see something protruding from the hole where the light should be. A human hand waving, as if signaling for help. I accelerate, trying to get closer. Yes, it's a hand. Probably a woman's or a child's. Without hesitating for another second, I grab my cell phone and call the police, my eyes still fixed on the sedan ahead. I think I just witnessed a kidnapping. I'm driving on Interstate 95, northbound, near the New Hampshire border. There's a black sedan, and from the taillight area, I saw a hand waving from inside. Can you read the license plate number? I try to get closer, but the driver of the sedan has noticed my presence. He suddenly turns onto a small road on the right, with no streetlights. I can't read the plate. It's too dark. But he just turned onto a dirt road. I'm going to follow. Sir, you shouldn't do that. It could be a dangerous situation. Please wait for the police. But I can't wait. Someone is in danger. Every passing moment could be life or death for them. I turn onto the dirt road leading deep into the woods, dark and desolate. After about 5 minutes of driving on the dirt road, the sedan stops in a clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. I also stop my car about 100 yards back, turning off my headlights and engine. Through the dim moonlight, I can see the man get out of the car, look around cautiously, and then disappear into the trees. This is my chance. I open my car door, step out, and cautiously approach the sedan, carrying a small flashlight I always keep in my car. As I get closer, I can see the trunk and taillight area more clearly. I shine my flashlight into the hole and whisper, "Is anyone in there?" A moment of silence, then I hear a faint whisper, "Help me, please." It's a woman. "I'm going to get you out of there." "Are you hurt?" "No, but he'll be back soon. Please, hurry." I look around the car, searching for a way to open the trunk. I try the car doors, but as expected, they're locked. I consider smashing a window, but that would make too much noise. I go back to my car, open the trunk, and take out a lug wrench from my repair kit. Returning to the sedan, I carefully wrap the wrench in my jacket to muffle the sound, then smash the driver's side window. The sound of breaking glass startles me, even muffled by the jacket. I quickly open the car door, searching for the trunk release button, but just as the trunk pops open, I hear a noise behind me. I turn around and see the kidnapper standing there, just a few feet away. In his hand is a large hunting knife. "Who the hell are you? What are you doing with my car?" I grip the lug wrench tightly in my hand, knowing I have no other choice. "I know what you've done. The police are on their way. You should just surrender." He laughs, a cold, deranged sound. "You think you're a hero? What do you know about me? About what I've been through? She's my wife. She betrayed me. She deserves this." And then, like a predator, he lunges at me, the knife raised high. I sidestep, swinging the lug wrench up in defense, only the sound of his ragged breathing and the clanging of metal against metal filling the air. I need to end this quickly. As he comes at me again, I swing the wrench at his knife-wielding arm. I hear a sickening crack, and the knife falls to the ground, but he doesn't stop. Fueled by pain and rage, he tackles me, knocking me to the ground. We struggle, him trying to reach the fallen knife, me trying to push him off. During the struggle, I feel a sharp pain in my side. He stabbed me. With all my remaining strength, I shove him off and swing the lug wrench again, this time aiming for his head. A sickening thud echoes, and he collapses, unconscious. I stagger to my feet, move towards the open trunk, and see a woman huddled inside, her hands and feet bound. "Are you okay?" I ask, my voice weakening from blood loss. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just then, the flashing lights and wailing sirens of police cars appear down the dirt road. I sigh in relief, knowing it's over. As the police officers approach, I collapse, exhausted from blood loss. But I remain conscious enough to see them handcuff the kidnapper and help the woman into an ambulance. When I wake up, I'm in a hospital bed. Morning sunlight streams through the window, and beside me is Miranda, my daughter, holding my hand tightly. Miranda hugs me gently, careful not to touch my wound. "Dad, you're my hero." I smile, a wave of happiness washing over me, despite the throbbing pain from my injury.
I once saw Walking Dead. I'm Jeffrey, a medical examiner. I work at the local hospital and regularly do autopsies that the police send in. Working night shifts and other jobs is already tough and pretty freaky, but working night shifts with dead bodies is way more terrifying. We have to do a lot of autopsies at night because as time goes by, the body changes, making it harder to solve the crime. That fateful night, I got a body from the local cops. Dr. Christopher and I were performing the task together. The body we got was a really young and beautiful girl named Laura. People found her body at the edge of the forest earlier this evening. Christopher and I stood in front of the body, praying to God to take the poor girl's soul to heaven. When we started the examination, we were surprised to find that Laura's body had no wounds or signs of impact and was really clean. But her hand and foot bones were broken, and her eyes were all milky white. That's a sign the body's been dead for a while. When we started the surgery, we were shocked to see fresh blood coming out. The joints in the limbs were still flexible and soft. This means the victim must have just died a few hours ago. It stands out from the color of the skin and eyes. From the very start, Christopher and I were confused because we couldn't figure out the time of death of the body. Christopher checked the mouth and found that the body was missing the tip of the tongue and a tooth. As we kept cutting into the organs, Christopher and I just looked at each other confused. Why does a young girl have such creepy black lungs? Christopher thought that Laura might have died from suffocation in a fire, but her skin doesn't have a single scratch or burn, not even a light one. My words got Christopher thinking deeply. I found a small cloth wrapped around the tooth in Laura's stomach. When we put it where her missing tooth was, it fit perfectly. The cloth had a bunch of weird symbols on it. We pulled out another cloth from the body's stomach. Inside it was a black lily. Christopher found out that this flower is often used in rituals, funerals, and stuff related to death. Plus, there was no food left in the body's stomach. We heard a noise outside the operating room. It sounded like metal clanging. Christopher stayed behind and I went out to check. Looking in the little mirror on the wall, I saw a pretty tall figure standing at the end of the hallway. I dashed forward, but the figure had vanished. I looked around again, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. I went back to the lab and told Christopher everything. He suggested wrapping up for the night and continue tomorrow morning. But the police needed the autopsy results first thing tomorrow morning, so we were out of time. The deeper we got into the autopsy, the more confused we became. It's hard to figure out the exact time and cause of Laura's death. We initially missed the tiny mark on the skin at the back of the girl's neck, right by her hairline. When we looked closely, we realized that the mark was similar to the one we saw in the middle of the two pieces of white cloth earlier. Could this be a pagan ritual? Christopher's words made everything I'd been guessing from the start feel a lot more certain, because he noticed something weird about the cause of death too. The mood in the autopsy room got pretty gloomy. It was already 3 a.m. The lights in the room suddenly flickered. Christopher and I looked around, totally confused. I flipped the light switch off and then back on, and it worked just fine again. I saw Christopher's face go pale with fear. Doing this job requires you to toughen up mentally. I laughed at Christopher because his expression was just so scared. Christopher, while stammering, claimed that he had seen a shadow outside the door. Suddenly, the bell rang in the middle of the quiet atmosphere at 3 a.m. sharp. Christopher and I stared at each other shocked, with our bodies frozen and unable to move. We all know what that sound means. Every corpse coming into this morgue has a bell and an info card attached. So the bell ringing meant that the body was alive. Before we could react, there was banging on the door and crazy screaming that made us jump, hug each other, and scream loudly. A chorus of fear. But a few seconds later, our survival instincts kicked in and stopped us from continuing that scream fest. Looking toward the door, we saw a tall guy covered in wounds. He screamed in a super high-pitched voice and kept banging on the door with a folding chair. I told Christopher to call the police fast, and I started looking for something to defend myself with. He could burst in here any second. That was the body we received last night. Christopher, looking like he was about to cry, said it while staring at the other man, and I just looked at him in shock. The door opened, and the man stumbled in, taking each step painfully. Christopher and I were terrified, hugging each other tightly. He rushed over to Laura's body, crying in pain, but he didn't do anything threatening. When the police arrived, I talked to them to keep an eye on the guy's actions and avoid provoking him again. I asked Christopher about that man. He admitted his irresponsibility. Christopher got word from the police about receiving an unidentified body. Christopher didn't check the body's condition when he got it. He just took it straight to the storage room. That man is Francis, 57 years old. He was controlled by a cult group and forced his daughter to be a sacrifice in their ritual. That poor girl was Laura, the body that Christopher and I were working on. There's been a lot of buzz about this cult lately, but the police still haven't been able to track down where they're operating. Francis physically recovered after being treated at the hospital, but mentally, he was pretty much a wreck. He couldn't speak or react to anything around him, so the police couldn't get a statement from him for the investigation. Nobody knows the awful stuff Francis and his daughter Laura went through. It's also unclear how many more people will end up being victims of these evil cults. I'm Terry, 31, and I work as an architect. My roommate is Richard. He works at the McDonald's nearby, and he's the same age as me. We met during an interview for my current job. I got lucky and was chosen, but he wasn't. But Richard's current job is pretty good too. He's being considered for the store manager position. We've been living in this apartment for over a year, and everything's been going fine. We always keep things balanced, like moderate concern, moderate curiosity, and giving each other privacy and comfort. He's got a positive vibe that really helps him adapt well at work. I really admire his optimism. My job has set hours, but his doesn't. One day, I came home totally exhausted. When I saw the living room and the lights in Richard's room were on, I figured he'd gotten home. I called out a quick hello, which is our way of letting each other know we're home. After calling out twice, I didn't hear him respond. I gently pushed the door open, but he wasn't there. On the bed, though, was a huge bouquet of roses. The bathroom light was on, and I could hear the sound of running water. So he was probably taking a shower. Probably on a date with some girl, I laughed to myself and went back to the living room. Just thinking about what to have for dinner made me feel tired. I grabbed a snack and the TV remote, then flopped down on the sofa. Before I could even open the snack bag, I fell asleep after just a few minutes of watching my favorite movie. The loud scream from the TV woke me up with a jolt. I thought, Why are the characters in this movie so weird? I glanced at my phone and saw it was almost 10 p.m. I started to panic a bit because I'd been asleep for nearly 4 hours. I opened the fridge to grab some food and found some bread, cheese, and cold cuts, enough to satisfy my hunger. I sat down to eat and started wondering how Richard's date went. After finishing my meal and cleaning up, I went back to my room. As I walked past Richard's room, I was surprised to still hear the sound of running water. Could this guy really have left the water running? I knocked on the door, but didn't get a response. The door was unlocked, so I pushed it open. The bathroom door was still closed, the light was still on inside, and the bouquet of roses was still on the bed. I turned the handle to open the bathroom door, but it was locked. I tried a few more times, but still couldn't get it open. I called out, feeling worried. Richard, are you in there?" All I heard in response was the sound of running water. Feeling anxious and confused, I started looking around his room. There was nothing unusual. His phone and wallet were still on the table. I was even more sure that he must be in the bathroom. He could have been in there for 4 hours or more. I screamed and banged on the door, calling his name. I tried to reassure myself that he might have just fallen asleep in there, but my fear grew as more negative thoughts piled up. He still didn't respond, so I ran to the sofa to grab my phone and call the police. The phone wouldn't recognize my face, and even after entering the password several times, it still didn't work. I was startled to realize that it was Richard's phone. I looked towards Richard's room door, thinking that since his phone was here, the phone in there must belong to... I flipped through the pile of pillows on the sofa to find my phone. After checking to be sure, I rushed out of the house. I asked the security guard to call the police. I stood under the building and kept praying for Richard. I looked up at the apartment window, and there was a dark figure standing there. It was Richard. I wasn't sure, but that figure looked really familiar. He stared at me, and I couldn't quite figure out what he was feeling at that moment. The police arrived quickly, and I told them I suspected my apartment had been broken into and that my roommate was in danger. I gave them the key code, and they entered the apartment. To my surprise, Richard, the person I reported to be in danger, was perfectly fine. He was just soaked and shivering. But when the police checked the bathroom in his room, they found the body of a girl in the bathtub, her neck tightly bound by a belt. He stayed calm and confessed to all his crimes without a hint of emotion. The unfortunate girl was his girlfriend, who had just accepted Richard's love the day before. That evening, he brought his girlfriend home and gave her a bouquet. But while his girlfriend was in the bathroom, Richard opened the door, walked in, and murdered her. He said he stayed in the bathroom, staring at his girlfriend's body for hours. He wanted his girlfriend to be his forever. I was stunned, looking at the friend I had always trusted and cared about. I couldn't help but wonder, what if his madness had turned toward me at that moment? I had no defenses and was even worried about a murderer.
I don't like April Fool's Day. It's like a double-edged sword. On one side, there's laughter, and on the other side, a tragedy ready to strike. But that only happened after I turned 16, the age of recklessness and stupid ideas that come to mind without any mental filter. I typed a message in excitement and sent it to my friends. "Guys, my dad is on his way to the hospital." A few seconds later, my phone buzzed nonstop with worried messages from my friends. I sat down, laughing to myself, enjoying the harmless prank. I thought to myself, it's just a joke, feeling self-satisfied. That afternoon, I sat on the couch, my eyes glued to the flickering TV screen. The game sucked me into another world, where real-life problems never reached. My mom was asleep in the back room after her long shift, while I was immersed in virtual missions. My dad walked into the room, his tall figure looking thinner than before. He asked me about my mom's phone charger. I pointed toward the table without taking my eyes off the screen. He stood there for a moment, then turned and walked away. A few seconds later, I heard heavy breathing. I didn't pay attention until I realized the breathing had stopped. I was in the middle of an intense part of the game, so I didn't think much of it. The breathing came again, faster, weaker. A part of me began to feel something was wrong, but my curiosity couldn't resist the allure of the game. My eyes never left the screen. Then the silence enveloped the room. I turned around, and my dad was standing by the table, his hand gripping his chest, his eyes wide open but eerily empty. He was holding his chest as if trying to grab onto something invisible that was leaving his body. I don't clearly remember how I reacted. I only know that I rushed to him, calling his name, shaking his thin shoulders, but his body fell like a tree chopped down. I screamed, and my mom immediately woke up and rushed out of the room, her face filled with panic. We tried to move my dad to the living room. I called 911, my hands shaking so much that I almost dropped the phone. The operator's voice came through, "CPR immediately." My mom, certified in CPR, knelt down and started chest compressions, counting each rhythm. I watched her hands press down on my dad's chest, but his body remained motionless, and I felt utterly useless. My dad's eyes opened slightly, but it wasn't the look I was used to, warm and strong. What I saw was emptiness, swallowing me whole. The sirens of the ambulance tore through the suffocating silence. They took him away, but deep inside, I knew. I knew that my dad would never come back the way he was. At the hospital, the doctor came out with a serious expression. "Heart attack," he said, his voice low but unmistakably sure. The chances of survival were very low, and my mom broke down in tears. I sat there, my hands clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my skin. My dad passed away early the next morning. In the days that followed, I couldn't take my eyes off the gaming console. The screen was black, but I stared at it as though it held the answer to the pain gnawing at me. I no longer saw the characters in the game. I saw my dad standing there, one hand clutching his chest, his eyes empty. I heard his heavy breathing repeating in my head. I had been there, right in the living room, just a few steps away from him. But I wasted those last moments of his life on a game. That April Fool's Day was no longer a day for jokes. It became the day I lost the most important man in my life, and I couldn't do anything to change it. I'm Egan, and my younger brother is Aiden. My younger brother is my only family. The horrifying story happened 20 years ago, when I was 9 years old, and my younger brother was 6. My younger brother and I, like many other children, had a warm family with both parents. But that was just the brief calm before the storm for my younger brother and me. My parents began to have conflicts. It was an issue for adults, so I didn't know the exact cause. We shared a room. When I heard my parents arguing and things being smashed, I held my younger brother tightly. I told Mrs. Ira, our neighbor, about what I had heard and witnessed. She lived alone and was very fond of my younger brother and me. She taught me how to protect myself from the heart-wrenching sounds. My younger brother and I would sit facing each other. I would cover his ears tightly with my hands, and he would do the same for me. My younger brother and I would look at each other, think of happy things, and smile with joy. Mrs. Erica's method was indeed effective, but it seemed to work for my younger brother only, as I could still hear everything very clearly. My younger brother's small hands couldn't block out those heart-wrenching sounds. Many times, I saw my mother with injuries on her face and hands. Every morning when my mother prepared the food, I paid close attention. The injuries increased day by day.
My mother was very tired, but never abandoned us. One time, my mother was holding Aiden, but started crying and nearly fell. It seemed like her legs and arms were very painful. I asked many times, but my mother always said she was fine. A few months later, my mother disappeared. My mother left without saying anything and didn't take my younger brother and me with her. My younger brother and I cried a lot because we missed our mother. No one was left to cook us delicious meals and read us stories before bed. Since my mother left, my father became even more irritable, aggressive, and unhappy with everything my younger brother and I did. We were extremely afraid of our father. One night, my younger brother woke up and cried loudly. I was startled awake and tried to comfort him, because if our father heard, my younger brother and I would definitely be in big trouble. "Egan, I want to see Mom. Can we go see her?" My younger brother said this while crying, and I didn't answer. I tried to soothe him so he could go back to sleep. Since our mother left, my father would often take my younger brother and me to Mrs. Erica's house whenever he was away. My younger brother and I really enjoyed the time spent at Mrs. Erica's house. We loved her attention and the delicious meals she cooked. Even when our father came to pick us up, my younger brother cried and refused to go home. One night, I woke up because I was thirsty. I tried to be as quiet as possible and went downstairs to the kitchen to get some water from the fridge. The kitchen light was on, and someone was standing near the fridge. I approached and saw that it was a woman with blonde hair, just like my mother's. Feelings of joy surged within me. I ran over and called out loudly, "Mom!" The woman was startled and turned towards me. She was a complete stranger. She only had the same hair as my mother. "Are you Egan or Aiden?" she asked me with a rather annoyed tone. My father came over, pulled her closer, and ordered me to go back to the bedroom immediately. Terrified, I forgot all about my thirst and ran quickly back to my room. After I saw that woman in the house, my father started sending my younger brother and me to Mrs. Erica's house more frequently. In the afternoon, when Mrs. Erica and we were sitting on the porch, enjoying the cookies she had just baked, there are noises at night that wake me up. After that, I get scared and cry. I miss Mom. Aiden told Mrs. Erica like that. "Don't be afraid, Aiden. It's just a branch brushing against your window when the wind blows. But there aren't any trees near my window," I quickly explained to Mrs. Erica. "It's in the wardrobe. I know it very well." My younger brother continued to talk nervously. I quickly shoved a piece of cookie into his mouth to stop him. She just smiled and opened her arms to hug my younger brother and me. The sound of a car parking in our driveway meant that Dad was home. We were used to the sound of the car and Dad's schedule. Neither of us wanted to go home at all. "Hello, Mrs. Erica. Did the kids cause any trouble or inconvenience for you?" "No, not at all. They are very well behaved and lovely." While Dad checked in with Mrs. Erica, my younger brother and I hurried back home. I looked inside Dad's car and then ran into the house to look around. Once I was sure that the woman was not there, I led my younger brother into the house. That night, my younger brother woke up and cried loudly, constantly calling for Mom. No matter how much I tried to comfort him, my younger brother continued to cry. My father opened the door to the bedroom and shouted, "Why haven't you gone to sleep yet?" My younger brother, even more frightened, cried louder and continued calling for Mom. "Shut up and go to sleep. I don't want to hear any more noise from you." I held my younger brother tightly and covered his ears. "Dad, let Mom go." My younger brother's words made my father, who was turning to leave, freeze in place. "Dad, you've locked Mom in that wardrobe. Let her go." I quickly covered my younger brother's mouth and whispered into his ear with a trembling voice, "This is our secret. You must not tell Dad." I didn't think much more about it and quickly pulled my younger brother's hand, running away. My father easily caught up with us. I bit his hand with all my strength. Suddenly, a loud gunshot rang out, and the door flew open. I heard the police. They demanded that my father come out immediately.
It was Mrs. Erica who, hearing my younger brother's cries and my father's shouting, called the police. My younger brother and I were taken to a children's care center in the city. I remember it was a long time before we were allowed to visit home again. My father was no longer at home, and the atmosphere was very cold and desolate. When Mrs. Erica called, my younger brother and I joyfully ran to her and hugged her. "Mom has been taken out of there by the police, hasn't she?" Mrs. Erica was stunned when she saw me pointing towards a mound of earth in the garden. I witnessed everything because I was also awake that night to get some water. I knew that Mom had gone to heaven, and I always told my younger brother that. I also didn't ask about Dad because I was very afraid of him. When my younger brother turned 10, he became aware of everything. The hardships we endured made my younger brother and me mature beyond our years. Currently, we have a fulfilling life with good jobs. My younger brother and I visited our father and shared with him our upcoming plans. My brother and I will host the wedding together, and Mrs. Erica will witness that happy day. I'm Dean, 28. Just got out of a 2-year relationship. My girlfriend moved out a few months ago, so now it's just me in my tiny apartment in Nashville. At first, I thought I was doing fine, but as the days went by, the loneliness just kept getting worse. The quiet walls of my apartment just made everything feel even emptier. I started to realize I wasn't as cut out for being single as I thought. So, to mix things up, I downloaded a dating app. Swiping through profiles and chatting with random people turned into my nightly routine. One day, I stumbled on Kelly's profile. She had a charming smile in her pic, and she looked younger than 30. I messaged her to get to know her, and I was surprised when Kelly replied right away. The way she texted was cool enough to keep me interested, and I thought I might have found someone interesting. We started messaging each other all the time on Tinder. At first, things were going great, but after a few days, I realized Kelly wasn't really into my stories. She'd often ask about my job, my place, and even the stuff I had at home. I didn't think much of it, figured she was just curious. With the holidays coming up, I thought it was time to meet Kelly in person. I decided to take the lead and invite her to dinner at a spot near downtown. But Kelly had a different idea. She wanted to come over to my place and decorate the Christmas tree together. The idea sounded fun, so I quickly agreed, hoping for a chill night. On the day we were meeting, Kelly showed up right on time. I opened the door and was surprised by how tall she was, pretty much the same height as me, a 6-footer. Kelly was wearing a red wool coat, and it smelled like strong perfume. But as I got closer, I noticed the scent had a hint of body odor and this weird, sharp smell that made me feel uncomfortable. I invited her in, poured us some wine, put out some cookies and fruit, and we started chatting. But Kelly didn't say much, and the conversation just went nowhere. She seemed kind of spaced out, just giving vague answers when I asked her stuff. I still kept it polite though, not wanting to ruin the date. Kelly brought up decorating the tree and took the lead in heading down to the basement with me to grab it. Kelly was pretty strong and really tall. I realized I forgot the box of decorations, so I went back to the basement to grab it. When I came back up, Kelly was gone. At first, I figured she was just in the bathroom, or maybe outside getting some fresh air. But when I checked everywhere, the living room, bathroom, front yard, backyard, and bedroom, I still couldn't find her. I texted Kelly on Tinder, but she didn't reply. I tried calling, but her phone didn't even ring. The silence was so heavy that I started to feel really uneasy. A wave of dizziness hit me, and I couldn't control my body anymore. My mind was spinning, everything got blurry, and I just passed out without even realizing it. In my daze, I saw a tall figure moving around the house. I heard stuff crashing, but I couldn't move. When I woke up, the dim light from the living room lamp took me a sec to realize I was lying on the floor. I stumbled to my feet, feeling like I had just gone through a nightmare. But when I looked around the house, I realized it wasn't a dream. Some of my stuff, like my watch, laptop, and wallet, was gone. Feeling confused and pissed, I called the police right away. At the station, I told them everything and gave them the details of what happened. But when the police asked about the person who did it, all I could give them was the name Kelly Wasson. I quickly opened Tinder, hoping for some clue, but Kelly's account was gone. The police thought Kelly Wasson probably wasn't her real name, and that she might be homeless, hooked on drugs, and stealing to get by. Hearing that, it finally clicked why Kelly's body smelled like a mix of all that. I trusted a stranger way too much after just a few texts and a quick meeting. My apartment isn't just missing valuables now, it's also colder than ever. Every time I think about it, I can't help but blame myself for being so careless. Even though the whole thing made me lose a lot, both stuff and mentally, I see it as an important lesson. Next time, I'll be way more careful and won't just trust anyone. Being single can be lonely, but sometimes it's safer than trusting the wrong person.
I'm Victor. I'm heading back to my hometown to crash with my parents. After going through a rough patch with work and relationships, I decided to live in the basement since it has everything I need, like a bathroom and a kitchen. It makes me feel like I'm living in my own place. Other than working at my new job, I'll just be hanging out in the basement, reading, listening to music, and enjoying my own space. And it's this basement that both put me at risk and helped me get away from it. A few months ago, one night, there was a crazy storm and I was home alone. After checking all the doors and windows upstairs, I went back to my own space. I turned on the light, read a book, and just enjoyed the sound of the rain. It was so relaxing. By the time my eyes got tired and heavy, I put the book down, but kept the light on like usual and went to bed. The next second, the light went out, and I was engulfed in darkness. I wasn't really freaked out or confused. It's pretty normal for a storm to mess with the power lines. I figured I'd just sleep like that, and everything would be back to normal by morning. I closed my eyes for a bit, then got jolted awake by a loud bang. At first, I thought it was a broken tree branch hitting the window, but the second time, the sound was followed by what I was pretty sure was a metallic noise. The third time I heard the loud noise, I was sure the window had been broken. I jumped up like hell, ran to the basement door, and quietly locked it. Back in bed, I fumbled for my phone to call the police, but the Wi-Fi was down when the power went out, and there was no phone signal. I went back out, stood by the basement door, and tried to listen. Then I realized staying in here was pointless. This basement had no windows, and there was no way out if something went wrong. I held my breath, unlocked the door again, and tiptoed out. My heart was pounding with every step, and it was getting clearer. There were about 2 or 3 people, and they started searching the house upstairs. They were whispering to each other, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I pictured the house layout. Go upstairs, turn right, and you'll see the kitchen. The window there could help me escape. Using the darkness to my advantage, I started putting this crazy plan into action. Just a few steps I'd usually take, but for some reason, it felt so exhausting in that moment. My mouth was dry, my heart was racing, and I tried to push down my fear to save myself. About 5 steps away from the floor, all I could make out were the blurry silhouettes of 3 guys from the flashlights in their hands. They were all tall, and there were a lot of them, but what really made me freeze was the thing they were holding. Guns. I gasped right away. My mind was all over the place, and the house suddenly felt unrecognizable. Find a way to the basement. Victor's down there. Don't let him know you're coming. What the heck? They know my name. What's going on? Who are these people? I almost lost my balance and nearly fell back into the basement. A chill ran down my spine as I heard the footsteps of the 3 guys above, and their flashlights' faint beams shining through the gaps in the stairs. There were only 5 more steps, but why did each one feel so long? And time seemed to slow down. The guns in their hands made it hard to breathe, and my legs felt like they were going to give out. There was only one thought in my head. How the hell do I get out of here? but the atmosphere felt like it was closing in, suffocating me. Hearing the whispers and footsteps fade away, my mind was too scrambled to come up with a clear plan. In the end, I decided to just run as fast as I could, charging straight into the fear and pushing through it. Only then could I hope to get out. I finally made it to the kitchen, and just then, one of the three guys who broke in showed up. He pointed the light at me, and without wasting a second, I opened the window and jumped out. The cold and the force of the storm hit me right away and woke up my nerves. I had just one goal, to get as far away from the house as possible. The road ahead was pitch black, and the only light I had was the occasional flash of lightning to guide me. I tried not to look back, even though I could hear screams and gunshots getting farther away behind me. I ran to the neighbor's house nearby, knocked on the door in a panic, and when it opened, I just collapsed, totally exhausted and cold. The middle-aged neighbor, looking worried, quickly pulled me inside and called the cops right away. In the middle of the storm and all the chaos, I could only breathe a sigh of relief, knowing I was finally safe. Later that night, the place was a mess, with signs of a break-in, and all the valuables were gone. The aftermath of that horrible night wasn't just the stuff I lost, but also the mental scars that stuck with me. I couldn't go back to the basement anymore. Every time I thought about going back, I'd get this wave of panic, like the thieves were still out there, just waiting for the chance to hit again. The banging, footsteps in the night, and the dim flashlight on the stairs, everything turned into creepy memories. I started jumping at every little noise around me. I felt stuck between two worlds, my normal everyday life and this dark world of scary memories. I started going to therapy so I could talk about how I was feeling without worrying about being judged. I also started doing medication and working out to keep my mind and body in balance. But real peace still felt pretty far off. Every time it rains and night falls, the creepy feeling comes back.
I clearly remember it was a rainy night in June. The sound of rain tapping steadily on the roof created a rhythmic sound. The kind of weather that makes you just want to curl up in a warm blanket and text the person you like. That's exactly what I was doing, surrounded by pillows, immersed in darkness, lit only by the faint blue glow from my phone's screen. Her name was Jenny, and I was Victor, a 15-year-old high school student. Jenny was beautiful with long blonde hair and a smile that could light up a dark room. She was in my science class at Westlake High School. It took me 2 months to muster the courage to ask for her Snapchat, and we started texting every night, which became a routine. I had waited for an hour when Jenny texted me saying she was alone because her parents had taken her younger brother to the doctor for an emergency fever. A Snapchat notification popped up. I quickly unlocked my phone. It was a selfie from Jenny. She was smiling, wearing a purple hoodie, with her hair falling down to her shoulders. Her bedroom was dark, lit only by a small nightlight on the bedside table. A message came with the photo. "I'm pretty tired, but I don't want to sleep yet. Tell me something fun." I smiled and started typing my reply. But then I stopped. Something felt off. I looked at the photo again carefully, and I noticed the window in her bedroom in the background, reflecting the dim light from the nightlight. And when I zoomed in on the picture, my heart almost stopped. There was a face in the window. At first, I thought it was just an illusion caused by the light and shadows. So I sat up, turned the screen brightness all the way up, and looked again. My heart suddenly raced as I realized that it was definitely the face of a man. Although the image was blurry, I could still see his eyes staring directly at Jenny. My hands began to shake. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. "Jenny, someone is outside your window," I typed as quickly as I could. I waited for a few seconds. No response. I typed again, this time with more exclamation marks, as though that would make my message arrive faster. "Jenny, Someone is watching you through the window. Call your parents now. 3 minutes passed, no response. Should I call the police? But what would I say? We had just met at school. I knew she lived in Oak Ridge, but I didn't know her exact address. My phone buzzed. Jenny was calling me on video. My hands shook so much I could barely swipe to answer. When I did, I saw Jenny's face appear on the screen, pale and tear-streaked. "Victor, there's someone trying to get into my room," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Call your parents." "I've called them. They're on their way." Then I heard it, the scratching sound on the glass. Not from the window in my room, but from Jenny's side. I could see the terror on her face. It's trying to open the window," Jenny whispered, her voice so quiet I could barely hear. I didn't know what to do. A sense of helplessness washed over me. I was here, safe in my room, while Jenny, the girl I liked, was facing a real nightmare. "Can you run out of the room or lock the door?" "I can't move." The scratching continued. Then a new sound, the sound of metal. He was trying to open the window from the outside. Jenny turned the camera toward the window, and there was a shadowy figure outside, faint behind the glass. A hand was pushing. The window was slowly opening. "Jenny, run! Run now!" I yelled, tears starting to stream down my face. The camera shook violently. As Jenny got up, I heard the sound of hurried, heavy footsteps as she ran through the room. The sound of the door opening, the heavy breathing. She was running down the hallway. "I'm running downstairs. Victor, if anything happens." "No, nothing's going to happen. Your dad's almost home, right? Just hide. Go to the kitchen and find a knife to protect yourself." The camera continued to shake as Jenny ran down the stairs. I caught a brief glimpse of the dark living room, then the kitchen. "Victor, I think I hear footsteps on the stairs." "Jenny, hide. Hide now." "I'm in the kitchen cupboard under the sink." "Your dad will be home soon. Just hide and stay quiet." For a moment, we just sat there in silence. I could hear Jenny's breath, tight and labored. Part of me still couldn't believe this was happening. Just 10 minutes ago, we were texting like normal, sharing stories about the day at school. Now, I was watching extreme fear unfold before my eyes, and I couldn't do anything to help. Then I heard it through the phone, the slow steps coming into the kitchen. The footsteps stopped. I could hear Jenny's breath becoming more frantic.
"Jenny Miller."
A voice spoke up, making both me and Jenny jump.
"I know where you are. Why don't we talk?"
Jenny put her hand over her mouth to stop her breathing. I could see her tears in the dim light from the phone screen.
"I've been watching you for a long time, Jenny. On Snapchat, you never noticed that my account was always there, following every one of your posts. I know you like purple. I know you hate broccoli. I know you sleep with a moon-shaped nightlight."
I felt sick. How long had this person been watching her?
"And I know you're talking to that kid, Victor. He's not worth your time, Jenny. He's just a little boy. You need a real man."
My heart stopped when I heard my name. How did he know about me? The footsteps started again, walking around the kitchen.
"You can't hide forever, Jenny. I've seen all the videos of your house you posted on Snapchat. I know every corner of this house, and I especially know about the cupboard under the sink where you're hiding. Come out, Jenny, or I'll break this door down. 1, 2.
The front door opened, cutting off the intruders counting. "Jenny!" I heard the sound of hurried footsteps leaving the kitchen, the door opening and slamming shut. "Dad!" Jenny screamed, pushing open the cupboard door. The camera shook as she ran toward the front door. Through the blurry screen, I saw Mr. Miller tightly hug Jenny. She was sobbing in his arms. "Are you okay? What happened?" "Dad, there was a man. He climbed into my window. He was chasing me. We should call the police. The police arrived, took Jenny's statement, and checked the house. They found marks on the bedroom window showing that someone had tried to open it from the outside. They also found footprints in the garden beneath Jenny's window, but no traces of the intruder inside the house. It seemed like he had fled when Mr. Miller arrived. Jenny showed the police the Snapchat photo, but it was too blurry, not enough to become a lead in the investigation. 3 months have passed since that night. Jenny transferred schools because her parents didn't feel safe at Westlake anymore. We still kept in touch, but we didn't text every night like before. There was a fear that had changed between us. The police never found the intruder. No security cameras in the area captured his image. The footprints didn't match any criminal records in their database. Sometimes, when I lie in bed at night, looking at the darkness outside my window, I wonder if he's still watching me. And the worst part is, I can't stop thinking about how he knew my name, how he knew Jenny, and I were texting each other. He had been following all of her social media accounts and probably mine too. Since that night, I've made all my social media accounts private. I no longer post selfies, always make sure the curtains are drawn tightly at night, and I always feel like someone is watching me.